Hey guys, my name is Drew Pizzulo and welcome back to another episode of Watch Out. It is the June 2022 episode. I am rocking my Kansas Championship gear over here. And today we're actually going to talk about something a little unique and interesting. The difference between microbrands and scam brands. And you might ask, what is either one of them? I'll go into that right now. A microbrand is a small company created in a certain niche environment in a certain segment of the world. And it is meant for these microbrands are watch companies that are usually have different categories to them. And we're going to go into that right now because basically there's five really categories to a micro brand that you should recognize that it is a micro brand and not a scam brand. So let's talk about some of the companies that I'm talking about first when it comes to micro brands. Companies such as Unimatic, Spinnaker, Baltic, Laurier, Liv, Alsta, Christopher Ward, Oak and Oscar, and Dan Henry are some examples of what we like to call micro brands. Now again, like I said, there's five characteristics to micro brands, and usually they create models and designs themselves. That's the first characteristic. Usually these small watch companies that usually only serve to a certain segment of the market or segment of the actual place in general. Like for instance, you see a lot of micro brands in Switzerland. They're also called house brands, and they only really sell to that segment in Switzerland. You do see some pop up here and now of in the US. Okay, so those type of brands usually create their own models and designs, so they have a different look to them, they have a different feel to them. It's when a company creates a design that's either patented or it's a company that'll create a design that is unique to them, to their movement that they create. Usually these are brands that are created by watchmakers who have worked for other companies before. Usually the big companies like Rolex, Cartier, they just want to be their own boss and start their own little company. And the first aspect of it is their uniqueness that you haven't seen anywhere else. So they'll offer things such as the way the watch looks or the different functions of a watch that it provides, sometimes different tourbillon movements. And these micro brands can be either pretty cheap, as cheap as like a couple $100s, or they can range from several $1,000s into the tens of several thousands of dollars, based on how many are made, which gets us into our, let's go to the second point of it. Most of the times these micro brands are going to be using Swiss parts, and like I said, they're from watchmakers, so they have these extra Swiss parts from these bigger companies, or they're able to get them through a manufacturer, and they just redesign them into their own watch and their own brand and release them that way. So they usually, and this is what I wanted to get to, are limited editions. So what makes these even more expensive for especially the micro brands that have watchmakers that have these little micro brands that they create themselves. Sometimes they hand make them, and they'll only be limited to 10 or 15 because they're all handmade, nothing done by machine, and it takes these gentlemen and ladies a long time to actually make it by hand, which goes into the cost and the pricing of the watch. You see that a lot of times when we go to the New York City Watch Show, as we've done in the past. We run into a lot of micro brands done by watchmakers. Doesn't make them any less appealing than the major brands. It actually makes them more unique because you can't get them anywhere else but in certain spots, or usually off their websites or at their stores. They also have good customer service, the micro brands, because again, these are the watchmakers themselves usually have control of the company. So they get to create their own customer service and fix any issues or defects that may occur if you buy one of their watches. Because it's a smaller company, you'll get better customer service from these types of watchmakers and these micro brands, because it's a smaller facility, there's less congestion, and there's less inventory backup. And finally, the returns and the refunds, like I said, if you have any issues with them, it's not a problem, because you know what you're buying with these micro brands. And even the bigger companies like Christopher Ward or Lev, they usually do a pretty good job of their customer service because they're very detail oriented. A lot of times they'll give you pretty good warranties on these watches, and they have no problems saying, hey, we have plenty of interest in them. If you don't want them, since it's a limited edition, you can return it within 30 days with whatever the limitations are, and you can take it from there. Now, micro brands, again, are very different than Scambrands. I'm going to list some Scambrands to you that are out in the market right now. Now, I've run into quite a number of these on Facebook. They love to advertise on Instagram, on Facebook, on Google, on that type of thing. So let me tell you the difference between this and a microbrand and a Scambrand. So the Scambrands, like I said, the advertising done on social media a lot. Some examples of the Scambrands are Forge and Foster, Paul Rich, Hello Ice, Leonardo, Louis Bowl, Duca Flag, Ralph Christian, Egard, Filippo Loretti, and Mondestri. These are just some of many more that are out there. I just wanted to list you some because you're probably going to run into this quite frequently, especially on Facebook, and God knows what other social media websites that they advertise on. Now, the reason why I give you this to look out for is because there's 5 aspects to Scambrands that you really got to be privy to really know what you're buying and what to expect from them. First off, the number one thing they like to do is they like to put any of these names on a current model. So what most people will do, they won't go the micro brand route. They won't create something. They will just take somebody else's design and put their name on it. Now, this is typically done in China. So what happens is, if I have raised $50,000, I would go to China. I would contact a company, and you can go on Google and say create your own watch brand, and it's pretty easy to. And once I go to China, I go to that watch company, and basically they have 5 different models or 10 different models that you can choose from, and you just stick your name and the color of the watches that you want on it. It's almost like an order form, and you want so many made, and they will give you a purchase order, and then you can have them shipped to you, and then you can sell them, and you will massively upcharge because the parts aren't done through a watchmaker. The parts are basically done through a factory, through machines, and because of that, you're going to have a different outcome with the rest of it. And like I said, the number 2 aspect of it is they use Chinese and Japanese parts because it's cheaper. So the watch may cost me $10 to $15 per watch to have this model made with my name on it. And then I go and create some wonderful marketing on Facebook, and then upcharge and resell it for $200 to $400, which is usually the price point of the Scambrands, to make you think. And then you're gonna give a higher retail on it. The Scambrands will say, oh, it's discounted from $2,300 to $399, and it makes it look so appealing. And Victor loves doing this. They're not a Scambrand, but they're notorious for the wholesale markups are 80% off from what they're actually charging on QVC. So, but the Scambrands love taking this aspect of marketing and pretty much dropping it into their sales pitch to get you to buy one. And like I said, the third aspect is they are bulk bought. So they're not in it for a lot. And because they're not in it for a lot, you're going to have poor customer service. Unlike the micro brands, which you have very good customer service most of the time, because you're actually dealing with a lot of times the watchmakers and the watchmaking teams themselves. Here, you're dealing with factories that can be popped up and shipped out from day to day. So Scambrands are usually pop-up companies. They will order so many, and then they will sell so many, and then they will shut down because they've made their profit. So when you try to call with a problem because you may have gotten the wrong watch, the watch may be broken, the watch comes in pieces, you didn't get a watch, it takes you 6 months for the watch. There's a reason for that, and if you go on if you type any of these brands in and then put Scambrand behind them, and you will go do some customer reviews on how many times these brands have had issues with the customers who have bought them. And they frequently cannot get returns. They got to fight with their credit card companies, assuming it's paid by credit card, and very, very rarely do they ever get refunds back on anything that they buy. So that is a disaster in themselves. And like I said, number 5, no returns or refunds. Usually you won't have any return or refund policies with a scam brand, because even though they may say it on the website, you try to go claim that and either they're gone, or they'll give you a runaround, or they just won't pick up the phone. Because like I said, when you go to China to buy a bulk amount of these watch models and you sell them, then you have no reason to service them or no reason to take them back, because whatever you got, whenever it's sold, you've made your money and you move on. This has been happening for decades. This is not something new. They don't plan to be around a long time, scam brands. They're just here and then they're gone. So again, the micro brands, legit companies that should be around for quite a while, as long as the market can dictate their demand. And the scam brands are pop-up overnight companies. And believe me, like for instance, this hat is from a pop-up overnight company. It's fine. Sometimes you will never have a problem. You'll like the way it looks, you'll like the way it feels, and you're good to go. But that's not the case in all aspects. So just beware of which type of brand you are buying from. If you're going to go on the unique small end of the spectrum when it comes to a watch brand, and just know what the good and bad aspects of the micro brand and the scam brands are, and the differences between them. Thanks for joining us today. I look forward to being back with you next month, and hopefully everybody so far have a happy and safe summer. We'll see you on the next episode of Watch Out.